Welcome back to TLDR's daily briefing for Wednesday, the 19th of March, 2025. In today's episode, we cover a potential Russia-Ukraine ceasefire, the latest valuation of Elon Musk's X, and stranded astronauts returning to Earth. But first, a crackdown against Turkey's opposition. In a significant escalation of political tensions in Turkey, Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu, a leading challenger to President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, was detained by police this morning, heightening fears about Turkey's democratic integrity, which Erdogan has influenced for 22 years. İmamoğlu was taken into custody on Wednesday as part of an investigation into alleged ties to terrorism. State media asserted that the mayor's detention is linked to a pro-Kurdish political group's support for his upcoming re-election campaign. İmamoğlu, who leads Erdogan in some opinion polls and is one of the country's most popular political figures, was expected to be named the presidential candidate of the Republican People's Party, or CHP, on Sunday, for elections scheduled for 2028. The CHP, the oldest political party in Turkey, which was founded by Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the first president and founder of the modern Turkish Republic, labelled İmamoğlu's detainment as a coup attempt against our next president. About 100 people gathered at the police station to which İmamoğlu was taken. His detainment follows the controversial cancellation of his academic degree by Istanbul University, a decision that could disqualify him from running for president if not reversed. And it's part of a general legal crackdown on opposition figures across the country, which has been criticised as a politicised attempt to undermine their electoral prospects. Alongside İmamoğlu's detention, Turkish authorities issued arrest warrants for 99 other people amid claims of corruption related to public tenders. In reaction to today's events, Turkey's lira crashed by as much as 12% to an all-time low of 42 to the dollar, underscoring worries over the eroding rule of law in the major emerging market and NATO member country. You're listening to TLDR's daily briefing. If you want more explainers on what's happening in the world, then you should check out TLDR's other channels. Today, we released videos on how to fix the EU economy and why Labour are quietly getting closer to the EU, as well as an episode of our podcast, The World Leader Leaderboard. You can find those videos linked in the description or show notes for this episode, or by searching for TLDR on YouTube or Nebula. US President Donald Trump has said that Russia has agreed to a limited ceasefire in Ukraine on energy and infrastructure, adding that the US and Russia have agreed to hold further talks on a ceasefire at sea, a full ceasefire, and a permanent peace. In a summary of the phone call between Trump and Putin yesterday, the White House said that negotiations will begin immediately in the Middle East, and added, the two leaders agreed that a future with an improved bilateral relationship between the United States and Russia has huge upside. This includes enormous economic deals and geopolitical stability when peace has been achieved. For context, on Sunday, Trump said the US and Russia have already discussed dividing up certain assets, citing land and power plants, as part of a deal to end the war. However, there are some question marks over the difference in wording between the US and Russian statements. According to the White House, Trump and Putin agreed that the movement to peace will begin with an energy and infrastructure ceasefire. Meanwhile, the Kremlin statement in Russian said that Trump put forward a proposal to end attacks on energy infrastructure facilities for 30 days. As some keen observers have pointed out, there is a significant difference between the White House's energy and infrastructure, which would presumably include things like hospitals, schools, and other civilian infrastructure, and the lesser energy infrastructure, i.e., simply oil and gas facilities and power plants stated by the Kremlin. This has led some people to wonder what, specifically, has been agreed. On Tuesday, an emergency session of the outgoing German parliament approved a package of constitutional reforms proposed by Chancellor-in-Waiting Friedrich Merz that loosen the country's strict debt rules and allow for hundreds of billions of euros to be injected into Germany's military and infrastructure. The measures were supported by Merz's Conservatives and the centre-left Social Democrats, who expected to form a grand coalition together. The Greens also voted in favour, after securing a commitment that 100 billion euros from the investment fund will go towards climate-related spending. This is a massive U-turn in Germany's fiscal policy, which for years has been constrained by the debt brake, a constitutional measure that limits the structural deficit to 0.35% of GDP. Merz's newly passed package creates an exemption from the debt rules for defence spending exceeding 1% of GDP, including aid for Ukraine, and also creates a €500 billion fund for spending on modernising infrastructure, including the climate spending we mentioned earlier. In total, 513 out of 720 German lawmakers voted in favour, surpassing the two-thirds majority necessary to amend the constitution. In other news, the valuation of the social media platform X, owned by billionaire Trump ally Elon Musk, has risen back to $44 billion, the amount Musk paid for it back in 2022. The new valuation marks a sharp turnaround for the privately held company, which was last valued at below $10 billion in late September by Fidelity Investments. Musk's proximity to the US president appears to have boosted his business fortunes, with investor interest in the loans Musk used to finance his takeover of Twitter having improved in the weeks after Trump's election victory in November. According to the Financial Times, a group of 7 Wall Street banks, including Morgan Stanley, the Bank of America, Barclays, and Mitsubishi UFG Financial Group, have now sold almost all of the $12.5 billion of loans Musk used to buy Twitter. This suggests that other investors are more confident in the platform's future, likely due to the belief that Musk's proximity to Trump could benefit his businesses. Finally, in some uplifting space news, 2 astronauts who were forced into an extended stay aboard the International Space Station after a technical fault with their capsule have finally returned to Earth. NASA astronauts Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore, aged 59 and 62 respectively, landed safely back on Earth in a SpaceX Dragon capsule, which splashed down off the coast of Florida on Tuesday evening. It brought an end to their 9 months spent aboard the ISS, after what was supposed to be an 8-day mission testing the Boeing Starliner capsule suffered technical issues, making it unsafe, back in June. The pair passed the time on the ISS by helping crew members, conducting experiments, repairing equipment, and even voting, from space, in the US election in November. Williams also set a record for the most time ever by a female astronaut spent spacewalking over a career. The 2 are now being medically evaluated before reuniting with their families in the US. That's all for today. We'll be back with you tomorrow, so make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen. In the meantime, you can check out the latest episode of our podcast, The World Leader Leaderboard, where we discuss which heads of government are doing well and who's doing badly every week. You can find the link in the podcast description. This was a TLDR news production hosted by Georgina Findlay, written by Rory Taylor, Nadia Lovadinov, and Georgina Findlay, and produced by Scarlett Watchorn. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back again tomorrow.